everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast with Sandra J. Horton, the Growth Catalyst. Hello, everyone. It is Friday, and you are with myself today in the Leadership Heart Podcast. Unfortunately, my beautiful and dear guest has had a unforeseen circumstance come up, then she's not able to come and join us. So I thought, how best can I approach this situation? How best can I decide how I want to respond? Well, today I really want to talk about overcoming situations and about building resiliency. And this is really powerful because in our lives, so much stuff happens, doesn't it? Every day we have a choice. So I thought I'd come out more casual today, chilling in the background, a new background screensaver, because this is a powerful conversation that I want to share with you. And I want to share some of my deep stories about overcoming so many different things in our lives. And as a conscious leader, there's some powerful lessons that we can bring in. First of all, I want to ask you a couple key questions. So I hope you have a piece of paper. I've got mine written down. So here's some questions I have for you. When you are confronted by different situations, what kind of expectations do you have of yourself? If something is in front of you, perhaps something isn't the way you want it to be, what are your expectations? Do you believe that you can control the situation? Do you make assumptions about how it should go or perhaps doesn't go? Do you feel you have the right to be able to dictate the next steps from it? What is your mindset around this? Do you look at it as positive? Or do you look at it as if, gee, this always happens to me. Bad things always happen. These are powerful questions that we can ask ourselves, because how we address them, how we respond, not react to them, is the key piece. This is the essence of how we move forward as conscious leaders. So today's session isn't going to be a rah, rah, rah. It's going to be more about, let's lean in on a Friday afternoon at 4:30 Pacific time, and maybe it's later for wherever you are now. Maybe you're just chilling out, you're sitting back and you're thinking, hey, this sounds like an interesting conversation. So why don't we dive into this? So I've got a couple areas I want to chat about with this. First of all, we know life happens. So as our life is happening, I want you to ask those questions, but I also want you to look around yourself right now. Think about your day. As your day showed up today, did everything happen the way that you thought it would? What were some great things that inspired you that were new and great, that made your heart happy or made your thinking go, wow, this is an amazing opportunity for me to learn? Because it is in the taking stock in every moment that matters. What I have found in my own personal life, I lived through a lot of different things. Even today, like, oh my gosh, like I was sad instantly. Like my beautiful guest, Jacqueline, is not able to come today. But in this moment, I realized I had this choice. I needed to take stock. I needed to say to myself, which I know to be true, that everything that happens in my life, even if it's crappy, even if it's like really not great, that it's happening for a reason. There's always a reason behind everything. Maybe a door is shut. Maybe you've had a disconcerting conversation with someone. Maybe you had to stand up. I had to stand up to someone today in my work project, and I had to voice my opinion. And in doing this, I had that choice. I realized that this is a learning opportunity. So no matter what's happening for you in this moment, it's happening for you, not against you or hurting you. As someone who used to take everything very, very personally, that was a hard life lesson for me. So I want you to ask yourself, in all these situations that happened to you today, how did you take stock? What did you start to think? What did you imagine? And then what actions came from those choices? Were they choices where you responded from your heart, connected to your mind, or was it just in your mind? Because some of the most powerful things that can happen to us as leaders is our ability to stop, to be able to take that moment of breath, breathe in, become present, and look at these situations from that lens as an opportunity. And if those opportunities are overwhelming us, then absolutely just shift and move. I've talked about this before, but it's also the mindset, isn't it? It's how we look at things. So if we wake up in the morning and we have beautiful gratitude and we're seeing things abundantly, guess what happens? When stuff happens, we go, okay, we're able to still have a residual effect of the gratitude, of the gratefulness, of the positivity. But if we wake up in our lives and we're already living perhaps below the line in a less than glorious way, what happens? We feel this whoosh. We get overwhelmed. So I want us to consider yourself today. Where are you at right now in understanding these concepts? Where are you in this beautiful journey? I had this wonderful opportunity yesterday to have this very beautiful conversation with a dear friend about timelines. And this kind of runs right along parallel. It's really interesting when, for me, it's God's source, but for others, it may be infinite intelligence, whatever it is for you. I started to reflect about my timeline, about my journey of understanding situations, overcoming trauma, and all these things, being a leader, really genuinely showing up. And I started to look at my timeline. And you know what the fascinating part is, as someone who has awakened to this truth? How I even developed in my mind what my timeline looked like makes a difference. Like when you think of your timeline, how do you actually imagine it? Do you see your present as being a big part of your timeline? Or is your past the biggest part of your timeline, where you focus more on that past than you do your present or your future? If you were to close your eyes and lift yourself up as if your future is in front of you and your past is behind you, looking at your future rising up and then going back, what does it look like? What have you responded to? How have you overcome situations? Because it has occurred, it is in the past, but is your past more in your present moment? It's a very powerful tool to be able to look at that. And as we look down on it as if it is below us, if our past is so close to our present that it perhaps is overwhelming us, those decisions we made are impacting us today in our current reality, aren't they? I had this big, huge awakening. So let me just come back here. So we're just going to land ourselves back into our present moment, just kind of shaking ourselves off, taking a breath. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because how we even make that mental image is framed and constructed by our past thinking, by our subconscious mind, and how we process information. So, how we overcome situations, how we look at things, is also directly impacted by that exact same thing. It's so fascinating and so interesting to have that moment. Are you aware of how you construct your responses? How you emotionally are responding, the images, what you hear and what you think, what you feel in you. These are powerful things we need to become aware of. Because when I was looking back and looking at myself, suspended, looking at my timeline, if I shifted myself around, and I'm learning these beautiful things through my mentor, Rex Sykes, in his Ultimate Home NLP program, which I always give honor to the masters who, I'm on their shoulders and I'm learning from. It's really powerful because even in looking at that, when I shifted it 90 degrees or moved it around, due to my understanding of my current circumstances, I realized, guess what? My timeline was looking like this. Wow. Do I really subconsciously think that my future is going to be harder than it is in my present reality? What is the likelihood that I'm going to stand and respond to circumstances in a way, maybe ideally, that I want to? I need to shift that. I need to ease myself into this beautiful new future. I need to know I have the capacity, the competency, the truth, the ease of knowing that I will. And this is, really truly resides in building resiliency for ourselves. Sometimes we just don't stop, or perhaps situations cause us to stop. I know that really happened to me when I was going through my different divorces. I have two of them. Third time lucky. I'm very blessed to be in a wonderful marriage now. But as an individual, in my own awakening to my situations of coming through as a childhood sexual assault survivor, I was a trauma victim. I lived in that for so many years until I awakened and I came inside. It's the power of understanding these past situations don't need to dictate our future. So look at yourself, look at your timeline. How do you define it? And is that timeline impacting you because of these beliefs, these experiences? Are you bringing it into your present? We want our present moment to be the biggest and greatest and most wonderful thing we can live in today. It's so powerful. So, the viewpoint of how we look at things from different perspectives really does matter. And during this exploration, I also realized something very profound in building resiliency for myself. I remember and I recall even from yesterday, I floated back and I brought up a situation in childhood. I'm 59 years old and I'm thinking about this beautiful situation, which wasn't so beautiful, but I had to go back in and unearth it and unpack it. And I realized that it was around belonging and my current circumstances. If I'm triggered from that sense of belonging, guess what? I get triggered. So it is very powerful that when you're looking at that timeline, that you go back and you explore some of these pieces that perhaps are still impacting you today and how you look at things. And what I've realized is that in being able to go back to my timeline, I can actually go back even in before that event happened and change the trajectory of my current reality. I was able to release and let it go. Even now, all of us have experiences that are impacting us. And the more conscious, the more present we can become allows us to do that. So, how do you do that? We need to practice mindfulness. We need to practice and have gratitude. We need to be able to quiet ourselves so we can listen to ourselves. Now, for some individuals, when you're in the work environment, that can be very hard to do. But we have to stand up. We have to have self discipline. We have to find time to self care, to allow ourselves to stop and to breathe and to allow and to listen. This is all key to building that resiliency. Because if we're always on autopilot, always running, always going, not aware of how our past has impacted us, or our fear or anxiousness about the future, we're going to get the same thing because we know we are energy beings, that what we focus on is what we're going to get. So, even in that story that I was sharing yesterday, going back to when I was in grade one, like, my gosh, like, really? I have to go back here again? Really? Yeah, I did. And so, with all vulnerability, I could feel it in my stomach. I knew that there was something there that I needed to release in order to fully move forward. And I was exploring that timeline. And so I did that by sitting with myself, re anchoring myself as if I was in that position before it happened. And I moved it as if these things had changed into my future. And it was amazing that shift that I occurred. It can, and you will, and are able to do that. So these are powerful things when we're looking at overcoming situations. Our body is telling us. I don't know where you feel your pain or where you feel that discomfort, or perhaps like you feel it in your shoulders, you feel it in your stomach, wherever it is, heart palpitations, your body is telling you. But one of the other great things that we can learn that I want to talk about today when I was asking those questions about building resiliency is about acceptance. And it's about accepting things as they are. I talked a little bit earlier about the importance of realizing that all of our experiences, however horrific they are a learning event. And we need to release and let go, but embrace them. Because in those moments of trigger, in those moments of having to make a choice in how we're going to overcome situations, this is what is the essence of our awakening. Because what we find is that if we don't know ourselves, guess what? We keep doing the same things. I hope that was consistent with what I'm saying. Because even in myself right now, I was feeling that moment of, what else do you want to say about this? About acceptance. Have I really fully accepted all that's happened in my life? Do I truly understand and honor and know myself as I've built this resiliency? There's still parts of me, as I shared earlier, that are continuing to learn and to grow. We're never perfect. I don't like the word perfect. Perfect is, no, we're imperfect. We're perfectly imperfect, as I always say. It's just getting control of ourselves, but also realizing it's not our place to control. Because conscious leaders learn to release and not have the control. If we truly understand in our mindset that everything is as it should be, even if we're being triggered, even if we're having these situations that are less than glorious, that are not where we want to be, we're seeing things, we're hearing things, we're experiencing things that are not wonderful. We are exactly where we are meant to be. So it's in that moment of learning that we can then pivot and move forward. But we don't want to pivot too fast, because in these moments of just that breath and that release, allowing, the knowingness will come. Because that, if we push it and we push it and we keep running, guess what? It just keeps coming back. I had that a lot. I had a lot of things that kept reoccurring. And so, just stop. Give yourself a hug. Give yourself, I'm okay. I can be imperfectly perfect. We are just beautiful creatures that are here to have a wonderful experience. But for some of us, we allow circumstances to overtake us. We allow our past programming in our beautiful mind to control us. When I awakened to that truth, it was like, poof, this light bulb went on in my life. I can reprogram my subconscious mind. What a concept. What do you mean I don't control? I mean, I've just been living on autopilot. What? Wake up, girl. Yeah, I woke up after 2 failed marriages, after a lot of sadness, a lot of heartache. My kids seen as I went through this, but what they did learn is courage, is faith, it's trust, and it's growth. So here's the challenge for yourself right now. What is it that you're hiding or holding onto so tight, or trying to become or be, that maybe isn't even meant for you? It's interesting because these situations that continue to show up are coming in for our learning. And if we don't stop and reprogram, or at least understand why they're coming to us, for us, they're going to keep happening over and over, perhaps in different ways. And the interesting thing about becoming awakened or conscious is that it's about integrating that into ourselves. It's this is the thing. It's not just here. It's the connection between the heart and the mind to a higher calling and consciousness. It's about transcendence. Because as a leader, as an individual, as we grow, we bring this into ourselves. We're not scared, we're open. So when situations come or people challenge us or we challenge ourselves, we allow it, we feel it, we can imagine it. And then we reprogram it in a way that works, is purposeful. Always asking, is this here to serve me or serve a higher source or calling? Why are the decisions we're making? Why are we doing this? What is our why? Who benefits? Is it me that's benefiting? Is it my ego? Or am I being of service? Am I helping someone else? Because in situations, if I'm not there to have a win-win-win, which is for me, you, and society, then why am I deciding a certain way? Do I need to stop, breathe? And perhaps in the work world, I know I've had to say, okay, let's have a moment. Let's come back and rethink about this, asking myself these different questions. Like I said, I had a crucial conversation today with someone that's a new work colleague for me in this project. She's a key piece in the work that I need to deliver. And that person is acting a little bit out of fear right now. And I had to work with them to understand how we could collaborate to move forward. That their voice will still be heard. But they were overcoming a situation, but approaching it from a fear response. So once it was made clear that they didn't need to fear, that their voice is going to be heard, guess what? The situation just released. When people are fearful, when they're overwhelmed, when they have uncertainty, people can lash out. And how we respond is based upon what? Our past beliefs, our ways, our thinking, the habits that are so ingrained in us. And especially if we are, having gone through a lot of different types of trauma, there could be stacking things. So we need to unpack our own onions. And we're always growing. We're always doing that, aren't we? So just give yourself a big hug and a breath. Say, yeah, I'm okay. You are okay. I'm okay. We can do this. The belief, it has to be anchored within our heart to that mind. And also knowing that it's okay to release to a higher power and source. We may not have all the answers in front of us. And I do love the work of Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich and the many mentors that I work alongside that I'm learning from always. Some of the great theorists in leadership, because that's what I do, is conscious leadership coaching and working with this realm, is knowing that not everything is certain because we live in an uncertain world. And how we are able to understand that uncertainty is just, it's okay. Feel it, know it's okay. Just don't overreact. Learn to acknowledge those emotions and where they're coming from first and foremost. Give yourself that breath, then ask those very powerful questions. Why am I responding? How am I responding? What is the impact? Can I understand that other person's perspective, maybe perhaps better now in this moment? Not based on what I think I'm hearing or what I'm feeling, but seeking to understand in the moment. Go into the other person's perspective, like actually go into second position, which is as if you take yourself and you go into that person and you look out through their eyes, having a conversation with you. What is it like? How are you showing up? How are you standing? How are you speaking? What is your tone? Are you animated? Like, how would that make someone feel? Because in overcoming situations, if someone else is in that fear-based response or angry or isn't very receptive to what is happening, by going into their situation, you can change your situation. We know we can mirror, we can match. There's different ways of bringing people into rapport and alignment. And so we're able to overcome situations in a much more positive, productive way. So all of this is really about self, isn't it? It's about knowing ourselves. It's about giving ourselves that inner reflection. It is truly from the inside out. So if you are overcoming circumstances that perhaps are overwhelming with you, just take today, allow it, write it down, journal it, and start to write, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? What are you hearing yourself speak? And then ask and sit into meditation and say, what would it take for me to change, to see things in a different light? Begin with gratitude. And gratitude gives us that beautiful abundance, the gloriousness, the colors, the smell, the hopefulness that is in with anyone's heart. And for some people, we can lose that hopefulness because of the limited way we're looking or how we're thinking, how we're feeling, because we're energy beings. And so if we're very closed off, and as we say in conscious leadership, below the line in a victim mode, guess what? We're not going to look at opportunities or see things in a bright, positive way. So take stock of who you are now. Write all these things down and then begin anew today. So here's my strategy for the growth strategy. Begin for the next week at least. Wake up and have intentional questioning. Have gratitude. What is it that is wonderful in front of you? What are some new things? Focus on colors. Whatever it is, begin with that gratitude. And then move into, what are your strengths? What are your resources? That's the R in the growth. And then observe yourself. That's the O. Observe yourself in your relationships today and throughout that week. What do you observe? How are you responding, or are you reacting? What is occurring for you in these moments? And T is your truth. Go back, and if you need help, please reach out and do your timeline work. Dive into it. You don't need to stay there long. You just need to understand if there's parts of it that you need to release and let go in order to be free to accept. Free to accept. This is key because we need to connect acceptance and gratitude. So I thank you for that. And the last thing is to live with happiness and harmony. I can't believe it's half an hour already. So it's been my greatest honor to be with you all now. And we've been talking about overcoming situations and building resilience. So I look forward to next Friday when we dive in again at the Leadership Heart podcast. If you want to learn more about how to truly get control, to unlock yourself, to ignite your flame of self-love, of who you are, to become a conscious leader, to then bring that change into your organization so that the leaders are open and there's a beautiful rising of consciousness within your organization. The culture is of we, not I. Reach out to me, and let's have a conversation, a dialogue, so I can learn how I can support you. So you can reach me at www.sandrahorton.com. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next Friday. Take care, and bye for now.